News Center Maine is partnering with the-maine-monitor to bring you some of the reporting being done by journalists at the nonprofit independent publication. And we will be featuring one of their stories every Monday right here. So the government shutdown is officially over now, but it left more than 170,000 Mainers worried about where they'll get their next meal. That's due to the delay in SNAP benefits to Maine this month. It's something that has been a major challenge to Mainers' already strained food assistance network. So here to talk more about those struggles, Sean Scott, a reporter with Maine-Monitor. Great to see you. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me.
So we have obviously jointly been reporting on the increased demand for food assistance, especially over the last few weeks during the shutdown. But what are you learning in your reporting about how that just stacked on top of challenges that our food pantries are regularly faced with throughout the year?
Yeah, so food pantries across the state, they have had to deal with federal funding cuts already to their programs. Good Shepherd Food Bank is the largest food assistance network in the state. They have 250 partner pantries and 600 partner organizations overall. The one cut that I was especially interested in with them is a program called the Emergency Food Assistance Program, or TFAP. That's a federal program that gets food to food banks that they can distribute to pantries for free, and it's very large quantities of food, and it's things that might not necessarily be pantry staples, so it's like fruits and vegetables, meats, eggs, milk, items like that. The Trump administration in March cut about $500 million in funding to that program, and what that meant for Maine was more than 800,000 pounds of food that Good Shepherd would have received from, I believe, May to September. They weren't able to give to their partners. That's things like, I think they had like 45,000 cartons of eggs that they couldn't distribute. And for pantries themselves, many of them faith-based, they were reporting lower variety in food. It was more expensive for them to get food. That was the environment that these organizations were already operating in when the government shutdown happened, in addition to just more competition for grant money because of federal funding cuts.
They were already kind of battling uphill when the shutdown started. I know you do a lot of faith and religious reporting. You mentioned of faith-based organizations. What role have those groups played specifically during this span of time?
Yeah, so faith-based food pantries make up about a third of Good Shepherd's partners, or a third of their food pantry partners. And they are performing a lot of the roles that other food pantries serve, obviously. They have distribution days. A lot of them run out of church basements. It kind of runs across denominations. There's no one denomination in the state that's really doing the most of this work. There's Catholic Charities up in Aroostook County, Episcopal churches. I talked to one synagogue in Rockland. But beyond just doing food pantries themselves, a lot of congregations are also active in fundraising for hunger relief efforts. It's a very common ministry for churches and other congregations to work towards. And then they have programs that aren't food pantries but are still doing food relief. I mentioned the Rockland Synagogue. They're part of a group of faith-based organizations in that town, and they hold community meals every weekend. They do lunch for the community. There was one Baptist church up in Skowhegan that I spoke to, and they have a mobile pantry where they go around to different cities in the state, and they serve cheeseburgers to homeless people around the state. So even focusing just on pantries doesn't kind of get at the full breadth of the work that people are doing to get people in Maine the food that they need.
Yeah, and so many of those, like the mobile truck of what that community needs is what groups are doing. You know, we always, it's a little cliche, but we always say, hopefully we learned something from everything that happened. What are our food pantries taking away from or preparing for potential future cuts in funding? This isn't just a sigh of relief, I imagine, for them.
Correct, yeah. So this government shutdown happened right around the same time some of the first cuts to nutrition assistance from this summer's Big Beautiful Bill started going into effect. That is about $186 billion over the next 10 years. I've seen some estimates for Maine that's going to impact the benefits for about 30,000 people, and that's through increased work requirements. They've increased the ages that are subject to work requirements to receive benefits. They've gotten rid of some exemptions for people like veterans. And all of that really means that Maine's food pantries and the emergency food networks that exist in the state are trying to prepare for more demand over the next 10 years. I spoke to the president of Good Shepherd Food Bank, and her comment on the situation is that these systems weren't designed as the only source. They were designed with the assumption of a fully funded government assistance program in place. So having these cuts and having to deal with increased demand just means that they're going to have to rely more on donations, more on kind of stretching their dollars to get people the assistance that they need moving forward.
Your reporting is a helpful reminder of the steps that have happened over the last calendar year and not just the impact of the shutdown, so it's appreciated. Sean Scott with the Maine-Monitor, thanks so much for being here.
Thank you for your time.
And of course, if you want to see the full story and much more anytime, you can do that at the-maine-monitor.org.